Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the Grantmakers in the Arts webinar, Vitality Arts, Impact at the Intersection of Arts and Aging. I'm Sujin Chan, Program Manager here at Grantmakers in the Arts. For the month of July, GIA has been focusing its online programs on topics related to the arts and well-being, including using healing arts with military personnel, and how artists and the arts are used in healthcare settings. Today's session explores the intersection of arts and aging, and will focus on one national demonstration project, Seeding Vitality Arts, which was developed and implemented by Aroha Philanthropies. We're pleased to have joining us from Aroha, Ellen Michelson, Founder and President, and Teresa Bonner, Executive Director. Together they'll be sharing a bit on the history of the organization, how the Seeding Vitality Arts initiative came to be, what they've learned so far, and what's next for this exciting project. Aroha Philanthropies is also this month's GIA Member Spotlight, and you can learn more about them and find links to their website by visiting our homepage and clicking on the photo banner at the top of the page. The various photo banners, which can be randomly refreshed, showcase some of the great work that's happening through Vitality Arts. After Ellen's and Teresa's presentation, I will be back to facilitate a Q&A. To share your questions, you can type them into the rectangular text box at the bottom of your screen and then at any time during today's session. So with that, I'll turn this over to Ellen. Welcome, Ellen.
Hello, and welcome, everyone. Teresa and I are delighted that you have taken some time in your busy workday to join us today, and we appreciate your interest in this topic. Aroha Philanthropies has supported the arts since 1994, and in the last decade, the foundation has focused its grant dollars on arts learning. In 2011, I attended a presentation on creative aging at the Grantmakers in the Arts Conference that year in San Francisco. I heard Tim Carpenter, the founder of Engage, speak about the senior arts colonies he had created in Southern California. When I learned about the extraordinary impact these programs were having on the lives of older adults, as well as the teaching artists who worked with them, the imaginary light bulb went off. I decided then and there that creative aging would become the focus of my future philanthropy. I am now 60 years of age, and the subject of arts and aging is personal for different reasons. First, engagement with the arts has played an important part in my life since I was a child. I remember during elementary school gym class learning to dance the polka. At the time, that was a very Minnesota thing to do. I played clarinet in my school concert band, marching band orchestra, and I sang in my church and high school choirs, and I even performed in school talent shows. The feeling I had whenever I was engaged in an art experience was always joy. I've decided to start playing clarinet again, and I'm surprised how my memory for the instrument is happily intact. Practice will bring me back to the skill where I was those many years ago. But there's another reason for my interest in this work. As I approached my 60s, I became more aware of aging and what my life as an older adult could be like in this present-day American culture. The field of creative aging has opened my eyes to the assets that are part of advanced, age-enhanced creativity, the capacity to learn new things and to find joy and connection with others. My philanthropic commitment to help transform aging through arts engagement is now a part of Aroha Philanthropies' core mission. To my surprise, I learned that funding for this field was largely non-existent. I'm proud to say that Aroha Philanthropies has made grants of nearly $4 million and has invested another $1 million for professional development and advocacy to support our program work known as Vitality Arts. We are trying to bring about a shift in how the natural life experience of aging is looked upon in ways that art can be part of a person's entire lifespan. Aroha's leadership and staff are working to inspire and inform other funders about the enormous value and potential of arts education for older adults. This webinar is just one part of the Foundation's overall effort. We are also working to influence arts organizations and senior serving organizations across the country to consider collaboration to bring high-quality art-making opportunities to the many people 55 and better across the country. You will hear specifics about this and what we have learned during this presentation. Teresa and I will be attending the GIA conference in Detroit this upcoming October. I do hope that any of you listening today will seek us out so that we can share more about the work, because the level of quality within the membership of GIA is so high. I believe strong partnerships can be formed among our members to advance creative, artful aging in America. Thanks again for listening to me, and I'm passing it off to Teresa. Bye.
Thank you, Ellen. Please let me add my welcome and thanks to all of you today. I'd also like to extend our gratitude to Grantmakers in the Arts and Janet Brown for their tremendous support for arts and aging. Sujin, thank you also for all your support in helping us prepare for this webinar today. Like Ellen, being involved in the arts was a formative part of my early years. In my case, this took the form of piano. Here I am at 6 years old. Voice and organ at school and church in small-town North Dakota. Like many of us, life took over, and I had little time for these pursuits as an adult. In my 50s, however, I found my new arts home, ceramics, which is my passion and joy, thanks to opportunities I have to work with amazing teaching artists over the last decade. So, on to business. Our goals for today, as Sujin mentioned, are to do these things. First, to give you an idea of some of the benefits of funding for adults 55 and better, benefits to the community, to your grantees, and even yourselves. Second, we'll discuss the process we use to develop our work in creative aging, which we now call Vitality Arts. And last, we'll detail some of our strategies, including giving you a sneak preview of what we're learning through our National Seeding Vitality Arts Initiative. So let's begin with the benefits of funding arts ed, or arts learning, for those 55 and better. I'd like to open this section with a somewhat provocative question for us all to consider, and I hope the cartoon brings a smile to your face. As arts funders, we've been part of a decades-long movement to elevate the work of the professional artist, which is a wonderful thing. But we've always struggled with defining what makes a professional artist. Is it the fact that a professional sells their work, as the little girl does above? Is it the training they've received? And here's the question. Has this focus caused us to lose sight of the extraordinary value of arts work by non-professionals, people who are amateurs? After all, the source of the word amateur is for the love of it. As arts funders, we all want to encourage a love of the arts in everyone, and learning, making, and sharing an art form is perhaps the most powerful way to do this. As an arts funder, Aroha is embracing the amateur artist as a vital part of the arts funding ecosystem, and we see Vitality Arts as a powerful way to do this. So, what are the benefits to arts organizations and arts funders specifically of investing in arts learning by those 55 and better? Well, if you're a GIA member, you already believe in the power of the arts to improve lives. Like Ellen and me, many of you probably also loved being in band, choir, theater, or dance in your youth. And if you have children, you've probably made sure they've had these opportunities as well because you know their value. But arts funders have paid scant attention to the potential impact of participatory arts across the lifespan. We believe it's time for that to change, and here are 3 reasons. First, this is where the people are. The number of adults over 65 is, or shortly will be, greater than the number of youth in the K-12 system in this country and across the world. Second, these programs can dramatically expand employment of artists who teach, and you all know that most of them do so at some point in their careers. And third, these programs engage more adults in the arts in really personally meaningful ways. And don't forget, older adults vote, so this work gives us the potential to empower more arts advocates around the country. The NEA has made creative aging a priority. They're funding research, convening experts, they've published white papers, and have led and are leading a federal cross-agency task force on the value of the arts to health and well-being across the lifespan. More specifically, the NEA has been a leader in demonstrating the benefits of art programs on the health and well-being of older adults. It sponsored and published Dr. Jean Cohen's seminal study on the impact of professionally led arts programs for this population. That 2006 report showed that participation in arts learning programs led by professional teaching artists resulted in fewer doctor visits, fewer falls, and less medication usage by older adults. These are remarkable outcomes. Other research highlights the protective effects of participatory arts in preventing or delaying dementia and in reducing depression and social isolation. A major randomized control study on the benefits and cost effectiveness of choral singing is currently underway, led by Dr. Jolene Johnson at UCSF, and their findings will be published soon. But for us, the real heart of the matter is that learning, making, and sharing the arts brings purpose, connection, and joy to our lives. Next, we'd like to talk about how, as an arts funder, we went about developing this initiative. We spent about a year learning as much as we could, as fast as we could, about the field of creative aging. We thought about what would need to change in order to foster and elevate this work. Most importantly, we saw a desperate need for philanthropic leadership in this field, and through Ellen's generosity and advocacy, we decided to try to provide it. As we at Aroha explored the opportunities to have an impact in this field, three basic concepts began to guide our work. Those three are ageism, purpose, and social connectedness. First, ageism is pervasive and damaging. This is an actual ad, yes it is, but we've all seen the relentless advertising of products that supposedly stop aging. Sadly, our culture views aging as a disease to be cured or a problem to be solved, not a normal developmental stage of life. Older adults generally are not viewed in our culture as creative, productive, or able and willing to learn new things. And yet they clearly are. In addition, we dramatically overestimate the percentage of older adults who are frail and or in cognitive decline, despite the fact that the vast majority of older adults stay independent late into their lives. These attitudes and generalizations dramatically limit what older adults do. And while dementia is a terrible disease and the likelihood of experiencing it increases with age, many older adults live independent lives well into their 80s and beyond. The second concept that began to guide our work is that older adults desperately need and want purpose and meaning in their lives. Purpose is a critical aspect of well-being, according to research studies, and has been shown to contribute to longevity. Third, we learned that social isolation is one of the most troubling aspects of aging. Its negative impact on health and well-being is well documented, with experts now comparing it to a lifetime of smoking in terms of its impact on health. It was clear that the paradigm around aging had to change, and we wanted to help fix this. We saw that we needed to challenge outdated beliefs and create a new narrative regarding aging. We knew instinctively that the arts were part of the answer, and we set out on the path to Vitality Arts. We hope to help others understand that aging is about growth, not just decline, that it's about opportunities, not just challenges, and about the contributions older people can and do make every day. So how are we going to go about this? Let's turn to the strategies that we developed and are implementing to bring this program to life. We're a small foundation, and we knew we needed to find a focus within the very broad field of creative aging. Early on, we decided to hone in on the sector that held what we believed was the most promise for many older adults, and it was one that wasn't being addressed by other funders. Aroha focuses on actively learning, making, and sharing the arts. These programs are based on the same arts learning principles employed in youth arts education programs, but they're tailored to the unique strengths, needs, and wants of older adults. It was clear to us also that organizations that could and should offer these programs needed help building the capacity to offer them successfully. Arts organizations and senior serving organizations all need skills to effectively collaborate across disciplines. Non-arts organizations need to learn how to work with teaching artists, and arts organizations needed help understanding the older learner. We also realized that we have to work on both the supply side and the demand side for these types of programs. On the supply side, there simply aren't enough qualified teaching artists and program leaders out there yet. And we need to activate demand for the programs. Older adults who could so benefit from the most from arts programming generally don't know that such programs even exist. So here you'll see a snapshot of what we've done since we began in 2013. As Ellen mentioned, we've made significant grant commitments, and we've done much more than that. We've become philanthropic advocates. We've become philanthropic activists for what we see as a movement across the country. So next, I'm going to go a bit deeper on a couple of items, our communication and advocacy work, and our National Seeding Vitality Arts Initiative. We created a dedicated website with an array of resources designed to encourage program development and funding. At arohaartfulaging.org, you'll find links to inspiring and informational items, from peer-reviewed journal articles to videos that will challenge your thinking. I'd particularly like to draw your attention to several short videos that we've created, which can be downloaded through our website. These include 4-minute videos called The Wall, A Dose of Creativity, and Mastering the Art of Teaching Adults. And there are also several 1-minute videos that you will enjoy and that will challenge you. You can download and share them all. They're a great way to introduce the field to others, and we encourage you to use them as you can. The AARP Foundation features one of our videos on its Connect to Effect website, which focuses on the impact of social isolation on older adults. AARP wanted to bring attention to this pervasive problem, and they saw the impact that the arts can have. In May, we met with the staff of AARP in Washington, D.C. to begin to explore more fully how the arts can help solve this enormous issue, and we look forward to collaborating with them more closely in the future. Next, we're especially proud of our partnership with Next Avenue. Next Avenue is the online PBS platform designed to, quote, help grown-ups keep growing. You can find Next Avenue at nextavenue.org. It's a fabulous resource that reaches millions of adults monthly with stories on many topics related to aging. With major funding support from Aroha, Next Avenue has been able to create focused, ongoing programming to help adults learn, make, and share the arts. They've surveyed readers on their arts involvement, and they've created meaningful ways for readers to interact across the country. These readers are sharing their experiences and even their artwork through the website. In 2016, we designed and launched a major new initiative, which we now call Seeding Vitality Arts, in order to promote the development of new programs across the country. When we set about this, we began with the end in mind. We wanted to create a new narrative that shows how transformative programs can be successfully offered in a wide array of diverse settings across the country. Seeding Vitality Arts is multifaceted. It's a grant program, it's a demonstration project, and it's a capacity building effort all in one. Aroha engaged a stellar team, including Lifetime Arts of New York, Touchstone Center for Collaborative Inquiry in Minnesota, and Spoke Consulting in California to help ensure the success of our grantees and their programs. The team is providing training, ongoing technical assistance, evaluation resources, marketing and social media strategies, as well as a shared online learning and communication platform for the 15 grantee organizations that make up this cohort. The structure of the initiative was designed to support our goal of creating a new narrative. We issued an open RFP to bring attention to both the topic and the grant opportunity and publicized it as broadly as we could. We wanted to include both arts organizations that want to work with seniors and senior-serving organizations that want to explore incorporating the arts. We decided to create a learning cohort of 15 nonprofits in our two-step proposal process. We hoped it would attract a wide array of carefully vetted potential grantees. Our grants were generous and can be renewed for a second year, allowing the grantees to learn from the process, from their successes and opportunities, and from each other. Most importantly, we decided to equip the 15 grantees with every tool they need to be successful. Our investment in this program includes everything from assistance in creating the strongest possible application for funding to ongoing coaching of each individual grantee. The launch of Seeding Vitality Arts showed us a couple of things. First, the appetite for this work, and second, the need to support it are both enormous. We received more than 200 preliminary applications from 42 states. Arts applicants included arts councils, museums, dance companies, writing workshops, independent schools and colleges, theater companies, music education programs, opera companies, and many, many more art forms and organizations. We also received applications from many organizations that want to partner with arts organizations or teaching artists. These applicants include senior housing organizations, senior centers, YMCAs, YWCAs, universities, settlement houses, senior care centers, culturally specific organizations of all kinds, centers for the blind, and faith-based organizations. These are all organizations that were eager to encourage the arts, but lacked the capacity to do so. Following a multi-day in-person training in Minneapolis, as well as coaching and technical assistance, these 15 grantees in the national initiative are now offering classes to older adults in collage, in poetry, in memoir, in dance, in painting, in storytelling, in drama, in playwriting, and much, much more. We're already seeing early successes in these programs. Many were oversubscribed despite the organization's concern about whether they could attract older adults to the programs. Some have stimulated financial support from other donors, including a year-end anonymous gift of $100,000 to one of our arts grantees for its education programs. We've seen thoughtful, thorough stories on the programs from news outlets in several of the grantees' communities. And we've seen how collaboration among arts and non-arts organizations can flourish. Over and over, we are hearing that participants in these workshops feel something transformational has happened to them and that they've been able to do things they never thought possible. Some have come to the workshops with great trepidation about performing at a culminating event, for example, saying, I can't speak in front of people, I can't do these things, and then they've powered through the experience and emerged with new confidence in their abilities. Creating this opportunity for older adults and seeing and hearing the reactions of participants provide tremendous gratification. There are many examples that I'd love to share with you today if only time permitted. This slide is simply some photos from the culminating event at the Newark Museum, and I just particularly love these. But we've had other amazing collaborations from an independent school who is working with a senior organization to develop storytelling workshops for the high school students and the seniors together around the topic of work. We've had collaborations between an arts organization, Teachers and Artists Collaborative, and Visions, Inc., which provides services for older adults who are blind or visually impaired. And the results have been remarkable. Now we've followed the national initiative with a second, similar offering just for Minnesota nonprofit organizations. This time we changed it up a little and we offered a free day-long professional development workshop for all interested organizations in Minnesota. Now, we did put a little incentive here. We made participation in the workshop a prerequisite for a grant application. And the reason for this is that we wanted to, A, make a gift to the field of all the learning that we could share, but we also wanted potential applicants to really understand the work they were thinking of undertaking. We were truly gratified and amazed that 60 Minnesota nonprofit arts organizations and senior serving organizations participated in the full-day training last week. Now we're looking forward to a robust assessment of both Vitality Arts programs, as well as the opportunity to publicize their successes across the country. We promise to keep you posted as this initiative develops. So to recap, today we've covered 3 major topics. We've introduced the benefits of arts learning for adults 55 and better to you, as well as the benefits these programs can bring to both arts organizations and funders. We've shared the process we use to develop our focused work in creative aging, which we call Vitality Arts. And we've detailed some of our key strategies so far. So with that, I'd like to open the webinar to your questions. Sujin?
Great. Thank you so much, Teresa, and thank you, Ellen, for what a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate just walking us through all the way from the attitudes of older adults, which I don't think is something that we often think about, all the way to, you know, what you're doing in Minnesota now, and I think it's very fascinating. I just want, before we start with the Q&A, I want to remind folks that you can type your questions in the rectangular box at the bottom of your screen. We're going to turn the control of the slides over to you, so you can feel free to move through them and then reference them as you're asking your questions. And if I could go ahead and start with my first question, if folks are interested in beginning to fund in this area, where would you recommend that they start?
Great question, Sujin. So the vast majority of the arts councils, the state arts councils around the country, are very interested in this work. A lot of them have been part of a shared learning effort. Some of them have strategic plans for how they will bring this work to bear. So that would be one place. The second is your local or regional arts councils who may be thinking about this in your local community. There's a ton of information on the website for lifetimearts.org as well as the National Center for Creative Aging. And there also is a simple matter of reaching out to us because we have done so much research. And again, I would direct you to our website. When you go to Aroha Artful Aging and you look and you'll see resources, that's where you'll find a lot of articles. You'll have examples of exemplary programming. You'll see the scientific basis for a lot of this, and then a lot of things that are just plain fun and stimulate your thinking.
Great. Are you seeing much cross-sector collaboration in this work right now?
We are, and we saw even more of it in our 15 grantee cohort than we probably expected. And I think a lot of this is because arts organizations traditionally have primarily focused on adults as audience, not as participants. And so when they begin to think about this, they realize there's a different mindset that has to come into play. And then they also need to know, where are the older adults in my community? And across the country, if you look at your local business news, you will see senior housing, new senior housing projects springing up everywhere. Well, each of these senior housing projects wants and does provide some sort of programming for their residents, but they may not have thought about active arts learning. And so as an arts organization, the collaborations between what the arts organization and its teaching artists can bring and what the senior serving organization can bring in terms of seniors or space or place. It's just a very natural collaboration. But I also mentioned earlier the collaboration between an independent school and a senior housing community, between a YMCA and teaching artists, between an opera company and senior housing providers. So there's just a lot of opportunity. It doesn't mean an arts organization can't do it alone, but it does really give arts organizations a chance to work together with others in the community.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's something that, sorry, just one more follow-up. I think that's something that's really important for everyone on this call to think about. You know, we are all in the business of defending the arts against a lot of challenges and even attacks, you might say. But this work has so much promise and value in making a whole set of Americans really understand what being part of the arts can do for them.
Right, and I thought it was very interesting as we're mulling over this question about when you were listing the various types of organizations that had been applying for this work, whether it was the YMCA or the, you know, the local church or the senior center. It just seemed like there was so much cross interest, you know, spreading across all different types of fields. Yeah,
exactly.
So, go ahead.
And you know, one of the things that I know arts organizations that are getting strategic planning advice these days know, and Ben Cameron of the Jerome Foundation is the one who introduced this phrase to me. They're being advised to be entangled in their communities, not just support them, but to really be woven into the fabric. And so this really gives an interesting strategic way for an arts organization to relate to its community quite differently.
Mm-hmm. Great. You had mentioned early on that there was a challenge in getting teaching artists, and you know, so we have a couple of questions about teaching artists. How have teaching artists responded to the creative aging? Do you see their interests and abilities growing? And how can we as a field address the issue of finding available qualified teaching artists?
Those are great questions. So first of all, we have seen a tremendous amount of interest in this on the part of teaching artists for several reasons. First, as we know, funding from the schools and the education system for teaching the arts in school waxes and wanes. Also, the population of youth is smaller than it used to be. And as you know, the population of older adults is skyrocketing. So first of all, there's just plain more opportunities for teaching artists to teach. Secondly, we've seen teaching artists who are just marvelous, who had been teaching youth and realized that this wasn't really for them. They didn't love being in public school and teaching the arts. And so they were thrilled to find a new outlet for their passion for teaching and for their own art form. And third, the thing that really jumps out at you is when a teaching artist begins to work with this population, generally their attitudes and views of older adults are transformed. So the kinds of programs that we promote very intensively and intentionally are multi-week, 8 to 10-week programs built on the same skills that are used by teaching artists in K-12. In other words, sequential instruction, skill building over time, and always the culminating event at the end that brings closure and allows people to celebrate what they've learned. Teaching artists know these principles. They just need to know how to work with a different population, but the rewards are so huge because older adults aren't there because they have to be, because it's during the school day. They're there because they've chosen to be. They're goal-oriented. They have something they want to get out of this. They're open, and they are, most of these people, over and over across the country, we hear this story, most of these older adults come to the work with little to no prior knowledge of that art form, but a tremendous interest and intensity of wanting to learn it. They're there because they want to be. So you can see why that could be appealing for a lot of teaching artists. Now, on the question of how are they trained, I would first point to our partner, Lifetime Arts, which is the nonprofit I mentioned, a service organization nationally based in New York. They have provided training to, I believe, over 1,100 teaching artists around the country and have assisted about 150 arts and cultural organizations in planning or implementing programs like this. They have developed a national teaching artists roster, which is vetted. It's very heavily based right now in the states where they've done the most business. But they also received federal funding to develop and run 2 rounds of trainings for public libraries that want to offer this kind of programming in their libraries, just as they offer programming for youth in their libraries. And they've provided the extensive training. There's an online site. They've worked with them because organizations that haven't hired teaching artists don't really know what this is all about. Even things as simple and mundane as payment protocols need to be taught to non-arts organizations. So they really are, I'd say, the ones with the huge amount of capacity and knowledge to help organizations if they want to take this on.
What's the average grant size that you give for programs?
Well, they varied. In the first round with our national Seeding Vitality Arts program, we set up a system where they could apply for up to $50,000 for a year of programming, and we had parameters around how much programming that would be and what they could use the money for and so on. When we came to develop the second initiative, the Minnesota-only initiative, we learned a lot, as we always do, as we go along. And when you do this work, there are certain costs that you can just count on. So you have to pay a teaching artist so much an hour for both the teaching portion and the prep portion. And there are averages, national averages around that. You need to pay for whatever the supplies are needed for that art form. We allow them, I should say, to dedicate a portion of their direct costs, or all of the direct costs really for the program toward the grant. And then we also include a significant portion that they can apply to cover overhead. And that for us, we've been using a 15% number. As we looked at Minnesota, we realized that there are fixed costs, as we said, and variable costs, depending on how many workshop series the organization wants to offer. And so we took a different approach this time, and that is we said if you want to offer 3 series of 8 to 10 workshops, you get this amount. If you want to offer 6 series of 8 workshops, you get this amount. So in the second go-round, the grants are ranging from $12,500 to $25,000 to implement programming that will take place between April and November of next year.
Mm-hmm. What compelled Aroha to go from kind of a national focus and try a more place-based focus for this second step?
Another great question. Well, first of all of our programming outside of the national initiatives has historically been place-based. Historically, Aroha gave in the Bay Area and in the Twin Cities. We've shifted that funding to the Twin Cities now in terms of our general programs, which include arts education for youth, as well as residential mental health programs, particularly where they want to implement arts programming. So in a way, we were coming home. Ellen will tell all of you that for her, she grew up in Minnesota. She lived in California all her life, and she came home. She returned back to the Twin Cities. So it was natural for us to focus on Minnesota. Secondly, the Minnesota State Arts Board has a huge commitment to this work. Sue Jens, the director, has been an unbelievable champion and support, so that made a lot of sense. Also, it's a large state with a lot of people in it, and it's very geographically dispersed. And so as we did with the national initiative, we really wanted to show that this can be successful in a wide variety of settings, from big cities to small rural communities. And so we just thought to have a state to be able to bring this focus to bear would give us yet another story to tell. And as Minnesotans and former Minnesotans, we're just kind of really proud of Minnesota, its robust arts environment, and we'd like to see it just take off as the leader in providing this kind of programming.
Absolutely, that's great. You know, we have a lot of funders who are logged in, but we also have some nonprofits, and naturally some of the questions from people who are outside of Minnesota might include, does Aroha anticipate funding programming outside of Minnesota anytime again?
I believe we will, but we have not directly addressed that. Right now, we set these up as you know, as demonstration projects. So it's a 2-year arc. We have a really robust evaluation process that's designed to help organizations evaluate their work and make changes and learn going forward. So in general, we are most interested in seeing the results of this work, which will come to us at the end of 2018. Beginning of 2019, when we have and we issue these written results, and then 1 year later for the Minnesota initiative. So I wouldn't say we wouldn't look at something from another part of the country, but our efforts and our energy and our time are really going to these 2 initiatives right now.
Great, and I think this is a call then for the folks who are not, for the funders who are not from Minnesota, if you're looking for some ideas on maybe a new funding area that you don't already have. And we actually have a question about that. If I were to become a new funder in this area, what type of investment should I be prepared to make with my grant amount?
Well, that's a very, it's hard for me to give a short answer to that question. I'll tell you that I believe that the work we've done can help you short-circuit your learning time and the investment that requires. Are you a rural funder looking to have impact in several rural communities? Are you trying to change the culture of a major metro area and to make this something that's on the horizon of the arts programs there? There are so many ways that people can decide to get involved. But I would say that, and we are happy to share how these numbers were developed, but to get a program, a set, for example, of these three workshop series of 8 to 10 sessions each, 90 minutes or more. We've kind of done the math, and using national averages, one of those can be funded at about the $12,500 level. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, my apologies. Three of those series, they can really be put together for about $12,500. If an organization wants to, if a funder wants to dip their toe in and just look at this. But again, we really want to offer ourselves as a resource to our colleagues. This is a new field. This is a new effort, and we worked really hard to try to get the best thinking from the best experts around the country, and we're more than eager to share that with our colleagues. So call us, email us.
That's great. Do you have any plans, or have you looked into embedding multi-generational engagement in the Vitality Arts programming? I know that you all also do programming for K through 12.
Yes, what a good question. We love intergenerational programs, and I think I mentioned earlier that one of our grantees is exactly that. It was an independent school. I believe it's in Rhode Island. And they happened to think about the fact that they were located right next to a senior community and developed this storytelling workshop series. And they chose to focus on the theme of work and the whole idea of a school of high school kids and 80 or whatever year olds learning storytelling with that theme kind of made the hair on my arm stand up, because you can see how much learning goes both ways. Other great things, this particular grantee has shared a lot of photos, and you see, even things that come out of it, like the kids showing the older adults how to do something on their iPhone that they maybe didn't know they could do. I mean, they've become friends. Mm. And that's a big part of this programming, is you are intentionally creating meaningful social interaction, focusing on the work between the participants and among the participants in the programs. What I would add to this is I think there's a a preconception somewhere that when people say intergenerational, they're thinking about cute little kids at the nursing home. And when we say intergenerational, we're talking about something where both sides, the older adults and the younger, however old they are, both are sharing the benefits. They're both working together. And I think that's an important thing for people to keep in mind because, again, sometimes the programs that have been offered in the past are more about passivity, but we're really about active engagement by whoever is involved in the program.
Absolutely. Thanks for saying that. Can you speak to the 12 states that have been identified by the NEA, National Center on Creative Aging as focus areas for creative aging? Have you guys been aligning your work with funding in those regions? I know you've talked a little bit about where you're funding, but if you talk a little bit about if there's any kind of collaboration that you've been doing with that.
Absolutely. We had for several years financially supported NCCA. That grant is finished now, but I think they actually have quite a few more than 12 states. And I mentioned this earlier. The NCCA with the NEA created what they call a communities of practice that allows the state art council staff people to connect with and learn from one another in this program. And we were very excited when we heard that that was happening. I think in part because it seems to us that it's often difficult to get institutional funders to start to think about this. And I'll tell you why. Arts funders think about the arts, and I'm going to be right out there, I think a lot of arts people are somewhat ageist, as is the general population. They're not thinking about what older adults can do. Senior serving organizations, many of them, have not focused or thought about the assets of aging, and this gives them a chance to do that as well. But despite all that, many funders are reluctant to get outside of their silo. I fund aging or I fund arts, and never the twain shall meet. The state arts councils, I think, are really taking a more holistic view in many cases. And again, in Minnesota, we're very fortunate because we have things like the legacy amendment that make additional dollars possible. But I think that when a state arts council starts to invest in this work and makes it known and makes it public, it is a signal to private funders that this might be something worth looking at. So we absolutely applaud the NCCA's focus on that and are really excited to see state arts councils get involved in many, many ways.
Do your grants have a stipulation on whether or not programs can charge participants for services, or do you know if there's what the ratio is of programs that charge or are free?
I don't have information on the ratio of programs that charge or are free, but we've been clear in our programs that we're agnostic on the question of fees. It depends so much on who are the group of people that the organization is trying to attract. We do feel that with those who are lucky enough to get this funding, they can use this as an opportunity to either not charge or maybe not charge as much as they will, because it's providing a pathway, an entryway for people who might not have participated in the arts before. One of our grantees, Paramount Center for the Arts in St. Cloud, Minnesota, said they've had people come up to them and say, we know you've been teaching clay class or painting class or whatever, but I never really thought of signing up because it was like $300. But now that I had a chance to do this for free or at a small fee, I'll never miss a chance to sign up again because I see how much I can get out of it. So lots of different things. I mean, obviously, if you're serving a really low-income population, pull out all the stops to remove all the barriers for people to participate. But we don't have an across-the-board rule that they can't charge.
Great. Well, we have a question here about who did you say had the teaching artist roster? And I believe that's Lifetime Arts. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. LifetimeArts.org. They're building it. It's got a lot of teaching artists from the programs where they've done training, for example, through the library programs that I referenced earlier. But your state arts council may have a teaching artist roster. Your regional or local arts council may have a teaching artist roster. There may be a nonprofit in your community that kind of brokers this and has a roster. So they're out there in many ways.
And this is a very technical question about how a funder is able to publicize an initial RFP that has yielded 200 plus applications. What were the resources that you used for that?
From 42 states, I might add. Well, we really did work hard on this, and Spoke Communications, or Spoke Consulting, our communications firm, helped us with that. But we used, we sent it to the State Arts Council heads and asked them to distribute it, and many of them did, because they're all funding organizations. They all have email distribution lists. For the local initiative, now this is separate, but there are organizations of, for example, senior housing organizations in your state and nationally that you can, they're thrilled to publicize this. We put it in the usual philanthropic publications, you know, like the Chronicles piece for upcoming grant opportunities. And we did personal outreach, of course, to those who we knew across the country. But really it was kind of an all-hands-on-deck effort here to get the word out. And that was because, for us, what we're trying to do is build public awareness at every stage. At this early stage, and then we'll do the same when we have results and really can make a wonderful report available in video or print or whatever. We're all about trying to reach people. And I should mention, we use social media a lot. Our communications firm has taught us about that. I'm 62, wasn't a big user of anything other than Facebook. Still don't tweet, but they help us with that, and we certainly see the value of it.
Great. I'm gonna wrap this up, the Q&A, with two questions related to evaluation. We have a question about, can you speak a little bit more about your rigorous evaluation process? And then secondly, do you help grant recipients with their evaluation or help them connect with researchers that could get their data and help them analyze their work?
Great question. So we were able to collaborate with, or to engage Touchstone Center for Collaborative Inquiry as the firm that's helping us with the whole evaluation concept. They had been engaged by Lifetime Arts in the National Libraries Initiative and had done this twice before for national cohorts. So they knew what this field was about. I would like to talk a little bit about how we define evaluation, which, as we all know, grantees are often afraid of evaluation because it's a binary thing. I'm good, I'm not good. And for all of our intent, often that's the message they're taking away from it, and it's scary. What this process is about teaching the organizations how they can use data and evaluation to improve their programming, to figure out what they really are getting out of this and what their participants are, and to tell their story. So we have developed tools for our grantees. These include things like pre and post participation surveys that are used by the organization to gain the sense of what each individual got out of it in terms of, did they come into this with a knowledge of the arts, or did this help them become more socially connected? We have a whole list of those kinds of things. We also have provided tools to our grantees to do easy, small audience surveys for these culminating events. And every step we take, we keep learning. So I'm just going to give you an example here. One of the organizations used this audience survey form for their culminating event. I believe it was a choral event. And for the 100 or 200 people in the audience, 60% of those who watched the performance said this changed their ideas about aging. That's really powerful stuff to then tell another funder. But we aren't engaged in the, what some people would call the gotcha kind of evaluation. I also really distinguish between evaluation and research. We are not doing research. Others do, but that's a big, expensive undertaking. But we think that helping our grantees learn how to meaningfully evaluate the impact of the programs on themselves, on their participants, and on the community can give them some long-term skills that will really help them.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Ellen, for presenting today, but more importantly for offering your leadership and yourselves as resources to help other funders who may be thinking about or are already doing work in this area but would like to make it more robust. Thank you so much. And we will be sending out links to today's recorded presentation. We'll send out a PDF copy of the slide deck, and we'll also send out a brief feedback survey within the next day. We do hope that you'll take a few minutes and give us your feedback on today's session. It always helps us improve our programming for the future. And thank you all again for joining us, and have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.